Russia is deploying nuclear-tipped air-to-air missiles for the first time since the Cold War. The deployment comes amid the Russian regime's invasion of Ukraine and unprecedented levels of tension between Russia and Western countries. This is reported by Newsweek, citing a report published by the Pentagon's Defense Intelligence Agency. It is noted that the missiles resemble the weapons that the Soviet Union had during the Cold War, but the new version is adapted for use by the latest Russian combat aircraft. We may be talking about a special version of the R-37 aircraft missile, the R-37M, which can be carried by the MiG-31BM, Su-30SM, Su-35 and possibly the Su-57. While nuclear-capable air-to-air missiles were part of the Soviet Union's arsenal during the Cold War, little is known about their current status within the Russian Aerospace Forces, making the disclosure all the more intriguing. The article says, the deployment of such weapons has been known since at least 2018, wrote Hans Christensen, director of the Nuclear Information Project at the think tank Federation of American Scientists, FAS, but he said the weapons had magically disappeared from U.S. Defense Department publications about Russia's nuclear arsenal all these years. Air-to-air missiles emerged at a time when squadrons of heavy strategic bombers carrying nuclear warheads were considered among other means of delivering nuclear weapons to a potential enemy's territory. Such missiles were intended to destroy bomber formations in the air. The advent of intercontinental ballistic missiles significantly reduced the relevance of air-to-air nuclear missiles, and the development of air defense led to the disappearance of the very idea that a formation of strategic bombers could bomb anything. The missiles themselves also changed, from huge ground-based air defense missiles to attempts to install nuclear warheads on small aircraft missiles. Not having to get within range of a missile's high explosive warhead to shoot down a target could be seen as an advantage in the modern era, perhaps against stealth aircraft that can be detected but are difficult to pin down, especially by the missile's small radar during its terminal attack phase. Another possibility is that nuclear-armed air-to-air missiles could be used to counter drone swarms or waves of cruise missiles, the publication notes. It should be noted that the so-called nuclear umbrella is being actively discussed in Europe due to Russian President Vladimir Putin's regular nuclear threats. However, former Lithuanian President Dalia Grybauskaitė calls for not giving into panic over Russia's nuclear threats. Russia's high-ranking officials continue to deny the legitimacy of Ukraine's president, government, and constitution, despite dictator Putin's recent attempts to feign interest in negotiations to end the war. The American Institute for the Study of War, ISW, reported the information. Analysts examined statements by Russian Security Council Deputy Chairman Dmitry Medvedev, who said on May the 20th that no Ukrainian officials are currently authorized to sign a peace agreement with Russia. Medvedev questioned Ukraine's sovereignty and reiterated long-standing Russian demands tantamount to Ukraine's full capitulation. The ISW emphasized that Medvedev's statements directly contradict Putin's reported agreement with US President Donald Trump to immediately begin bilateral talks with Ukraine and indicate that the Russian leader has not ordered his officials to stop the narratives to discredit Ukraine in response to the promises he allegedly made to Trump. According to analysts, Putin does not intend to negotiate with Ukraine in good faith. ISW experts also note that Russian officials have repeatedly spread the false narrative that Zelenski and the Ukrainian government are illegitimate in order to justify Russia's refusal to engage in good faith negotiations with Ukraine and to advance Russia's long-standing war goal of installing a pro-Russian puppet government in Kiev. Ukraine's constitution and Ukrainian law explicitly state that Ukraine cannot hold elections while martial law is in place, and that Ukrainian authorities cannot lift martial law while the threat of attack or danger to the state independence of Ukraine and its territorial integrity remains. Zelensky also recently clarified that a September 2022 presidential decree does not preclude him from negotiating with Putin. The Institute for the Study of War report says. ISW again stressed that any long-term peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine must include Russia's clear recognition of the legitimacy of Ukraine's president, government, and constitution. Recall on May the 19th, US President Donald Trump held a telephone conversation with Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Trump stated that Russia and Ukraine will immediately begin negotiations on a ceasefire and an end to the war. Before the call, the American leader spoke by telephone with Volodymyr Zelensky. It is expected that Trump will also call the president of Ukraine after the conversation with the Russian dictator. According to him, Russia allegedly supports the cessation of hostilities, but it is necessary to develop the most effective ways to move towards peace. He added that the Kremlin is ready to work on a memorandum with Ukraine, which includes, in particular, a ceasefire. "We are generally on the right track," Putin said, commenting on the start of the negotiation process with Ukraine. Chechen Republic leader Ramzan Kadyrov's health is reportedly deteriorating, prompting him to initiate a power transition. His 17-year-old son Adam may be the chosen successor. But Russian President Vladimir Putin does not want Kadyrov to be succeeded by his third son, they say. Two Chechen insiders familiar with the inner workings of Kadyrov's government told Al Jazeera that, despite the differential tones, Kadyrov has had a falling out with Putin over his preferred successor, his third son, Adam Kadyrov, who turned 17 last November. The sources requested anonymity as rights groups have previously documented a harsh crackdown on dissent in Chechnya, including the persecution of Kadyrov critics and their loved ones. Putin refused to have Adam as a successor, one of the sources said. In 2023, Ramzan posted a video purporting to show his son in a pre-trial detention center assaulting a Russian man who had burned a copy of the Quran. Ramzan said he was proud of Adam, who federal investigators said cannot face assault charges because of his age. The younger Kadyrov has been appointed to several official positions, including the head of Chechnya's Security Council. Kadyrov Sr. reportedly has necrotizing pancreatitis, a health condition with a low survival rate, and kidney problems that require frequent dialysis. The sources Al Jazeera interviewed claimed he was hospitalized several times in critical condition and spends hours in the Imed family clinic in Chechnya's administrative capital, Grozny, every day and often stays overnight. Since early February, Kadyrov has significantly changed his lifestyle. Sources say he now regularly spends time at the private Imed clinic and occasionally stays overnight under medical supervision. He travels in his own motorcade, mostly only in Grozny, and uses a medical helicopter for regional travel. His official duties have been largely reduced to social media posts managed by his press service. Public appearances and ceremonial functions have increasingly been delegated to Chechen Prime Minister Magomed Daudov. Kadyrov has 14 children, 6 of whom are adults. Aishat was the first child of Kadyrov to start a business and build a career in the civil service. She was followed by other children of the Chechen leader. At the same time, Aishat remained the only one who realized herself as a businesswoman, bureaucrat, and regional politician. However, Novaya Gazeta Europe reports that Kadyrov is focusing on Adam as his successor. He is often described as a young copy of Ramzan in Chechnya. A key signal of Kadyrov's changing priorities was the unexpected resignation of his daughter Aishat from the post of Deputy Prime Minister, accompanied by her 2 sisters' exit from government roles.